right, we'll call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. Can we please get a roll call?
Mrs. Bennett?
Present.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yeah, here.
Mr. Franco?
Here.
Mrs. Goebel?
Here.
Dr. O'Sherritt?
Here.
Dr. Pervola?
Here.
Mr. Burke?
Here.
Mr. Farr?
Here.
Mrs. Arnold?
Here. All right, superintendent remarks. Do we have any today?
I could never say no to that.
That's true.
That is a true statement. Everybody up here believes that.
You know, despite the last 2 days, you know, we've had a great start to the school year. Our schools are vibrant. They're energizing. They're exciting. I absolutely love walking through our halls. Our schools they're happy places. You know, as everybody knows, though, our last few days have been, I guess the good word is challenging. We've been dealing with some false posts on social media. You know, in response, we implemented enhanced security protocols both yesterday and today. And really, the threatening comments in these posts were quickly identified as being unfounded and not credible. You know, these same posts, we have come to find out, these same posts have been used to target and instill fear at many school districts around the state. And in fact, 2 of our neighboring districts received the same exact post that we got yesterday morning. They received it yesterday afternoon. Let me be clear. There's no current credible threats against any of our schools. These posts that have been circulating have been investigated and have found to be false. Unfortunately, there are just way too many people that use social media to create chaos and instill some fear. If any of these posts were credible, you know, we would not have been in school or we would have been in a full lockdown. You know, as I said in my all-call last night, I truly believe that with our security staff, and let me tell you, they're all, you know, retired law enforcement, state police, that we have a highly trained security staff with our security procedures, you know, a veteran teaching staff and paraprofessionals and experienced administration in such a close proximity to local authorities. Like, I truly believe that one of the safest places to be in Wyoming County is inside our schools. You know, the last 2 days, they've been frustrating, they've been scary, but I'm not going to let that take away from the great things that happen in our classrooms. The support and thanks that we've received from parents is greatly appreciated. Thank you for trusting us. We will always put, you know, the needs of your children and their safety. That's going to come first. You know, you come to school safe, go home safe. A couple of quick things, board. As you've seen, we are on the personnel report. We're appointing lifeguards this evening. Our pool is ready for action. Morning swim for the community will start next week. It'll be open in the mornings on Tuesday and Thursdays. And starting in October, we will have open swim night on Thursday evenings for the community. Our girls golf team is currently undefeated. As we get closer to the district championships, the excitement is growing. Our golfers are very skilled, but more importantly, you know what, they're good kids. They're good people, and they're quality students. Our 4th grade students today took a trip to the fairgrounds to participate in Ag Day. I haven't gotten their feedback yet. I didn't get back over there at the end of the day, but I'm excited to hear from the students. This is yet just another example of the great experiences that are offered to Tunkhannock students. And I'm proud to report that our full band will be performing at the Pennsylvania School Board Association's annual conference on October 8th in about 2 weeks. I can't wait to see the reaction from the attendees when our band starts performing and starts performing indoors. I fully expect that they will blow the roof off. I'm excited for them. Just a couple hours ago, we honored our senior girls tennis players. They're a great group of kids also. On Friday night, on the Friday night at the football game, we will honor our senior cheerleaders, our senior band members, and our senior football players. You can see the band seniors put up their signs in their auditorium. They like to think of this as their home arena, so they have their signs up. But please, community and board, please consider coming to the game tomorrow night and celebrating our seniors. I'm happy to report that our new food service manager, Metz Culinary Management, has been a huge hit. Dr. Suppan and I have received many compliments about the food quality, about the menu choice from students, from parents, from our staff. And compliments are always very good to hear. Finally, and you should probably check this out before it gets too dark, we have a new group patrolling one of our courtyards here at the high school. Our FFA club has brought 8 chickens into the high school. They are named Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. They live in a coop in one of the courtyards. They are egg-laying birds, and the FFA has been selling eggs. If anybody's interested in purchasing a dozen eggs, they should reach out to either Miss Wood or Mr. Winsek or call the high school office. But we had a representative from the Pennsylvania School Boards Association visit us today, and I had her in the courtyard, and she was feeding a chicken. That's something you don't do every day. And again, I couldn't be more excited about the start of the school year and the amazing and dynamic things that are happening in our schools. And really, thank you very much for always providing me with a few minutes to address the board and community. And if it's not too dark when we leave, we'll go over and see the chickens.
I recall hearing a story about how Mrs. Wood was having some chicken therapy yesterday, and the chickens, made their presence known. So, always a hazard of farm life. All right, well, thank you, Superintendent Doherty. Let the record show that we held an executive session prior to tonight's meeting on personnel matters related to former staff and district safety and security protocol. That being said, we have an opening for public comments on agenda items only. So the way that this works is that there are 2 public comment periods at tonight's meeting. The first happens now, and it is on only subjects that are covered in the agenda for tonight's meeting. At the end of the meeting, then there'll be another open public comment period to comment on anything that people may be here to comment about. Each public participant is given 4 minutes to give their comment in each of the sessions for public comment, and public comment can only be received from current students, staff, parents, residents, taxpayers of the Tunkhannock School District. So with all that being said, is there any public comment on agenda items for tonight's meeting? No. Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. So under enrollments, we have those on pages 6 through 10 for everybody's information. Give everybody a minute to look at that if they'd like to. We're currently at 1,995 students as of September 3rd. Moving along, any comments on enrollment? All right, seeing none, moving along. Item 6, approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the August 15th meeting?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherritt?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. All right, item 7 is business and finance. Do we have a motion for items 1 through 6 under area 7?
Motion to approve 1 through 6.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherritt?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Superintendent's report.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend a resolution be adopted approving the personnel report as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Bobo?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Abstain.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
I would like to thank Wendy Mickle for her years of service to Tunkhannock Area School District. She will be stepping away after about 20 years of service. So thank you, Wendy. Number two, I'd like to recommend a resolution be adopted approving the following conferences, A through F.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gobo?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. All right, under committee reports, I don't believe we had any committee meetings since the last meeting, and do we have a need to schedule any? Seeing none. Moving along to unfinished business, discussion and possible motion to approve changes or adjustments to the district sports programs, page 71.
If the board recalls, over the last couple months, we've talked about the sustainability of some of our sports programs due to our declining enrollment. And at the last meeting, it was discussed that, the possibility of perhaps reducing some freshman programs, since the opportunity to participate would still be there for freshmen, being that they could participate with JV or at the varsity level. And what we had talked about was potentially the elimination of junior high boys basketball and junior high girls basketball. I think we also got into discussing the possibility of ninth grade baseball being eliminated. But they were the three that were really discussed at the last meeting. And, the board had asked me to bring that back for a consideration again this month for discussion and a possible motion. So I'm going to, turn it over to the board for discussion, or I'll do my best to answer any questions should the board have any.
I have a question. Junior high is 7th and 8th grade. So you're talking 9th grade, right?
We're talking ninth grade basketball, boys basketball, ninth grade girls basketball, and ninth grade baseball.
Okay.
You said junior high, but I think you meant ninth grade.
Oh, I'm
Right, I
sorry.
think you did too.
Yeah.
Okay.
One question I think the board had, and Mr. Winsick, you're here, on the cycle, if we could do this on a year-to-year basis in regards to the freshmen, or do we have to jump into that 2-year cycle? It's not for freshmen, okay. Okay, but I know we had spoken about that, and,
Yep.
can we reverse this in the future, which obviously we can, but I just wanted to know with the Wyoming Valley Conference and the schedule, how difficult that would be. Okay. Okay. And I think one of the other questions that was brought up, and the board made a point about this, we don't want to inhibit ninth graders from competing. I did have a discussion with the basketball coach. There was a concern last week, maybe Phil brought it up, last month, I can't remember, concerning the numbers, and if we had high numbers. The feedback I got from our basketball coaches, we did not have a projection of high numbers.
Right.
In speaking with the coach, at least boys basketball, because I don't think girls basketball didn't have a freshman team last year.
Well, they had a freshman team, but it was all seventh and eighth grade students.
Right, that's my point. So I apologize. No freshmen on the freshman team.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So I did do a little bit of research. I did not get any feedback from the community because we talked about it and we opened it up for community feedback. I don't know if any other board members got feedback from the community member. No. One of the things then I'd like to make a motion, if I can, I'd like to withdraw from competition the freshman teams from girls basketball, boys basketball, and ninth grade baseball for this year, the 24-25 season.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
That's a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this?
I guess, like, these are last year's numbers, but ninth grade baseball had 12. You add that to the varsity, and you've got 27.
Nine,
That can be tough to get all those to play. I don't know if there's any overlap, if they're not ninth graders in that group, or,
ninth grade baseball had 12, 8 of which were freshmen. There was 4 either 7th or 8th graders that played up on that team.
They didn't have enough freshmen to make a full roster, so they had to put 8 graders up for freshman baseball last year.
Again, I just want to, state that I don't believe this is a financial decision we're making. I mean, the money savings is not big. I mean,
It's not that much,
it's
no.
really just about, are we sustainable? And I mean, right now, I think we're going to struggle to sustain these programs. As our enrollment declines, that's what's occurring. So I understand that this might be a difficult decision for members of the board, but really, I just want to reiterate, this is not a financial decision.
I guess part of my concern is if you have the same athletes playing like a JV as they're playing in the varsity, if they're playing start on varsity, then also monopolizing the JV game as well. You're
See-
not getting the younger players opportunities to play.
See,
But
baseball's-
that's more of a coaching issue.
Yeah, baseball is unique because you need, the way the PIAA structures pitch counts, you need numbers, right? So like I think last year there was 15 on the roster size for baseball. That's nowhere near big enough the way the PIAA does pitch counts now. Like softball doesn't have a pitch count, so like you can manage that. Baseball now, like if you have rainouts and you have 5 games in a week, the amount of kids you need pitching is, I mean, you might need 12 pitchers to get through that. We probably, with 15, we wouldn't have played a JV game. I
A
mean,
ninth grader game, right? Because is the ninth grade take the place of a JV, or when you're talking about the high school, not talking about junior high, 7th and 8th, but when you're talking about for baseball specifically, we don't have a freshman team and a JV team and a varsity team, or we do?
There has been in the past.
Okay.
There has been. If the numbers support it, we'll play JV games. But I mean, if there's,
I don't think we played JV baseball as long as I can remember, so Kenny's not here, but like.
I mean, the numbers
We have
just
we
can't
have played
support
JV
it.
baseball, and I've seen most of the varsity kids playing on the JV, at the JV game.
Yeah, I don't know.
So you didn't have
How long ago
all
was
the
that? I
JV
mean, like,
kids actually getting a chance to play.
I hear your concern, but I don't think we've had a
But
JV baseball.
that's more of a coaching issue,
in
quite
ye-
frankly.
In years, though. I mean, like, baseball, like, I'm not really concerned about baseball out of all these sports because their numbers are down significantly. And so since they only had 8 kids on the ninth grade team, I mean, they're going to be playing up anyway. And I don't think those numbers in 7th and 8th grade were very large from what I remember. So I totally understand where you're coming from, Phil, but I don't think baseball is going to be a big problem to have that ninth grade team. I mean, that's a team that was staffed by 7th and 8th graders for many years because there really just hasn't been enough ninth graders. And really for the issue that Paul's saying, like just to have ninth graders on that team, it's just, you just don't have 20 ninth graders playing baseball.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have other discussion before a vote? Okay, may I have a roll call, please?
Dr. O'Sherrick,
Yes.
Dr. Perbola,
Yes.
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goldbolt,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Item 2, motion to approve through second reading of the following board policies, A through J.
Motion to approve. Second?
Any discussion?
So Paul, if I may, these are the same things that we always have done, second reading requires the vote, but this is coming from PSBA.
That's
To make
correct.
sure we have the legal documentation.
That's exactly
written,
correct.
okay.
This is no procedural change
Okay.
for Tunkhannock Area School District.
Yes, and by doing this, it keeps us from having to do what we just did, a year and a half ago, where we had to go through the whole policy manual because nothing had been updated in years. So this keeps everything fresh and,
Okay.
Yeah, keeps us legally compliant.
yeah. Do we have a motion?
Yes.
All right, do we need a second?
And second.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Pravola,
Yes.
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goldberg,
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Under new business, items 1, 2, and 3 are for information only. It would be the update on the right to know request, the TASD visa account, and the summary of the ESS teacher substitute fill rate. I'll give everybody a moment to take a look at those if they'd like and see if there's any discussion we need to have on those issues. I would like a quick update. I'm going to put you on the spot there, Dr. Suppan. How is how is the rollout with ESS worked, and are we seeing any better, that combined with our rates?
Initially, they switched managers for our school. It's gotten a lot smoother. We do have, the last time we checked, over 30 people in the pool. That doesn't mean they're going to sub for us. It's just if they complete it, we have a ton of people there. Our numbers consistently in September have been in the 70%. We were in the 70s with Kelly. But we have the potential to fill even more if even half of those 30 finish the application process. So we're still working on some of the kinks in regard to, you know, who's approving who and different things with logistics of the system. But I think we're on the right track. And hopefully we can push and I continue to work, her name's Bethany Tony, with her to try to get some of these 30 to finish the application process so we can increase our pool size.
Great. Is there any other discussion on right to know request, TASD visa account, or the summary from the ESS?
Are some of these folks new ones that haven't done it before in this pool? They're new
Yeah,
folks?
there are new ones. We've had some new ones. We've had some of our subs that were with us for years now, the same ones there. If you see, like, we've met with some of the regional managers and state managers. They've asked to put signs out, their signs out. I have the western side of the state manager coming in Monday, again with the manager from the Philadelphia area, to continue to have an in-person conversation to see how they can continue to support us in the transition with the new manager. But the 30, from my understanding, are a lot of new names. Again, it doesn't mean they'll complete the application process, but we'll try to push them to do so to increase our pool size.
Can you give a quick reminder for the community, anybody that might be watching at home? We did increase our rates because that was a complaint for quite some time, that our substitute teacher rates were so much less than the other surrounding districts. So do you happen to know off the top of your head what our current rate
It's
is?
150, 125, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 150 building sub, 125 daily. We were low compared to everybody else. And when we went with ESS, you know, one, we're rural, we're not in the inner city, so it's tough to pull some of the people to come out this way. And we were instructed by multiple stakeholders that if we don't increase our pay rates, it's going to be even tougher to get people. So we did increase that pay rate to 150 if you're a daily building sub, 125 for your daily rate if you're a sub.
And that is after the ESS gets a fee, right? Like,
Yeah.
that is what the,
No, that's
what the sub makes. That's not what the
No,
sub
that's what the sub
gets.
makes.
Okay.
Yep.
So anybody who has a bachelor's degree can be considered for a substitute teacher position through ESS. Doesn't have to be a degree in education. So if there's anybody out there who's looking for something to do on a per diem type of ideal situation,
I've been fielding a lot of calls. I don't know if they're in the pool system yet, too, from college kids that have obtained the hour requirement to start subbing, so that's good, too. I filled like 2 or 3 from kids at like Keystone and things like that. So I continue to get way more activity in regard to our sub pool than I've ever had before. We just got to get them to, not to repeat myself, complete the whole process and then sub for us, but there's a large pool number.
great. Thank you for that update. Any other discussion on those 3 items? Seeing none. Item 4, motion to approve a settlement agreement with employee 1578.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goldberg,
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick,
Yes.
Dr. Pravola,
Abstain.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Item 5A through D, these are motions to approve applications for payment as listed. These are items that were already approved. We're just approving paying the bills. So it's payment 5 to Scranton Electric, payment 6 to Scranton Electric, payment 6 to Scranton Electric for the mechanical construction at the high school, payment 8 to Scranton Electric for the mechanical construction at the high school.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Pravola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 6, motion to approve a change order for contract 3591 with Scranton Electric Heating and Cooling Service for the amount not to exceed $130,000 for the replacement of the high school kitchen hot water heater and supply system accessories. Financing will be through existing capital project funds.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just have a question on this one. Is it like we already, it was just changing what we had already intended to buy, or did something break?
I'm gonna ask John to step up and address that.
Sorry.
So, the contract 3591 is our contract with Scranton Electric for all of the HVAC work at the high school and middle school. So this is a change order to do an additional bit of work in the cafeteria to the hot water system. So because this is such a critical area, we need to kind of move on this because the hot water heater and that system is critical to the operation back there. So this is in addition to that. However, it will be funded through allowances that we were able to kind of work through during the summer that we didn't use. So we've put the not to exceed the 130 on it until we get through all the engineering and get an exact figure. But we wanted to keep the ball rolling and get this thing
John,
going.
some of the feedback I got was just like, you know, a hot water heater, $130,000. Can you
Yeah.
speak to why it was?
Absolutely. So it's not just a hot water heater. So it looks like it's either going to be 2 or 3 commercial condensing hot water heaters. We also have to do, we have to add a door to get the old one out. We also have to tie into the new gas line, which is on the roof. There's also some structural stuff that we have to do to get the, the piping. And then, one of the big things is the entire mixing system has to be changed. So it's a pretty big project, but it's something necessary for.
And I know that we expect, and we expect to fund a lot of this, more than half of this, if not almost 75% of this, with our allowances that were in the original contract. Our original contracts that we gave left a 10% allowance, so if there wasn't a change order needed, we get that money back. And we've come across this issue, and we expect that most of this 130 is going to be covered by allowances, actually.
So essentially, the hot water heater, it became a problem, wasn't working properly,
Correct.
and then we didn't know that originally.
Yeah, well, if you'll remember, Phil, we've had 4 of these in this building. This is the last one.
Okay.
So we did the pool over the summer, which ended up being 3 hot water heaters to sustain the pool, the showers and all that. If you remember, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, we did the one for the locker rooms because it was, compromised and it needed to be changed out. And then this is the last one. But this is also probably, in my opinion, the most important one because it supports the kitchen.
Sure.
So if we don't have the kitchen, it certainly is an issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, is the air conditioning on tonight, or is it just air handlers?
No, the air is on.
Yeah, so I mean, it's 87 degrees outside, and,
It's 69, and it'll ride between 69 and 71.
yeah, so just so people understand, that project has been completed, and now we do have air
Yeah.
conditioning in the cafeteria, this room, the gym,
Gym.
and the band room. Is there somewhere else I'm missing?
Culinary.
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 Yeah, yeah, and the chorus room as well.
And the chorus room,
Yeah.
the music department. Great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
That's been a long time coming. All right, any other discussion on this item? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Pravola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Motion to approve an assignment agreement with USA Staffing Services as presented. This is for a nurse for a special needs student.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Pervola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 8, motion to approve Dr. Daniel Williams as the physician responsible for approving medical access at the rate of $10 per IEP, not to exceed $5,000 annually.
Motion to approve?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Goldbow?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Pervola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes, I'd like to thank Dr. Williams. This is essentially him volunteering his time to do this at $10 per IEP. So thank you for providing this service for the district. Item 9, motion to approve an out-of-state field trip for the high school to New York City on April 4th, 2025.
Motion to approve?
Second?
What is that? Is that, like, you're not taking the whole high school, or maybe you are?
No, they're going, they're going to see The Outsiders.
Oh, that's cool. Are they reading it too? Are they reading it? That's neat.
Want a chaperone?
No. I liked the book when I was like 16. I'm not sure I like it. I don't know, whatever.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Pervola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goldbow?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Motion to approve the high school's updated ATSI plan.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Pervola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goldbow?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 11, this one's kind of exciting. Motion to approve the addition of the novel The Wild Robot by Peter Brown to the approved list of books for 3rd grade, which people will see. This is a movie that just came out in the theaters, I think just this last weekend or so. And I believe our 3rd grade team has quite a build-up for this, to read this book and do this whole project, and I'm sure see the movie with the kids at some point probably. So I know if Mary Jean were here, she would be raving about it.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, just so the board knows, I mean, there's nothing controversial in this. It's literally robot versus wilderness in a survival tale.
And a baby Gosling is in it.
Motion to approve?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goldbow?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Pervola?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 12, we have a guest here who can answer any questions if anybody has them, but we're looking for a motion to approve the construction of an outdoor classroom in the office courtyard at the high school. This is not the courtyard where the chickens are. This is an Eagle Scout project for Zachary McBain. There's no cost to the district because the funds are provided by the Tiger Fund for Excellence.
Motion to approve.
Second?
I'd like to hear what the scope is.
Hi. So, scope. I just heard a lot of chat from teachers, especially like English teachers, about wanting to get outside to give students a different experience and different opportunities to like express themselves, and also like just a change of environment other than just sitting in classrooms looking at a whiteboard all day. So that's kind of my thought process when going into this project.
So what do you like envision it looking like?
Oh, sorry. So in the office courtyard, raised platform stage, whatever you want to call it, surrounded by picnic tables that can fold into benches for additional seating, surrounding it. So there's a centralized platform and where presentations can go on or lessons with additional open space surrounding it. That's the basic vision for it.
our courtyards have been a long underused asset for the district, and I'm quite pleased to see them being made more use of. I mean, when we had the COVID, we used them for classrooms, and it's like, gee, how much safer can you get than in the middle of the school? I mean, so it's a safe place. You look out in there, and it's a shame to see that over many years now, you know, the landscaping has deteriorated over time, and when they first did it, of course, it looked a lot nicer. I was back there about then. But you know, to have them looking nice and have them being used and people out there being able to enjoy the outside during the nice times of the year, the early fall and the spring, I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Is
Yeah.
there,
Go ahead.
one other, I'm sorry, would there be ongoing to maintain the project? Is it like a large cost to the district? Just,
If I may, this was presented by Mr. Winsick and of course Zach, and it came to the Tiger Fund through the proper chain. Paul gave it to me, and we had some dialogue. It was unanimously voted positive by the Tiger Fund. I think it was $7,500 worth of wood, and the kids, my understanding, are kind of going to help construct it under the direction of John Shapolsky, I would imagine. And then it'll be owned by, of course, the district, not the Tiger Fund. We just think it's a great project. Anything else, Matt? I think that was it, right?
That was pretty much it, and Zach took all the feedback that he sent out a survey to teachers, students, looking for their ideas about what it looked like. And we went out and measured the area, and it was a seating for about 24, 30,
Between around 24 to 30.
around 24
Yeah.
to 30 for seating, and then, you know, if people in the community want to use it, you know, that is, it's available for them as well. And it's like Director Marr said, it's the same space, you're inside the building, you're not having outside visitors.
Yeah, so along the Tiger Fund, it's, you know, to enhance the experience of all students that obviously want to use it. Community can use it, extracurriculars, co-curriculars, anybody can use that. So the Tiger Fund, thanks for giving us the opportunity, Zach.
Thank you. Thanks for answering the questions.
Any other questions? Or, I mean, you really could just put this kid more on the spot. It'd be all right.
So how is she at home? No.
No, thank you, Zach.
Well, we're currently celebrating her birthday month.
Oh, month.
Yeah, it's all
She
about
gets a
her
whole
right
month
now.
in the house.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Spoiled.
this one, and yet here we are. Have a seat.
Spoiled.
You're
Yeah.
done. All right. All right, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Pervola?
Yes.
Mr. Burt?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. All right, the last item on the agenda is the last page of your booklets for the board members, is to cast votes for agreed-upon candidates for the 2025 PSBA officers election. None of the seats are...
Anybody good?
No. None of the seats are contested. The president-elect would be Sabrina Backer. The vice president would be Matt Vanoy. Eastern Zone representative, this like no-name person, Holly Arnold from Tunkhannock. And then for the PSBA Trust, Nathan Maines, Richard Fryricks, and William Lakoff.
So no one's running against any of these?
No.
Okay.
So do we have a motion to approve the whole slate as listed?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Pervola?
Yes.
Mr. Burt?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. All right, and with that, we will open the floor to additional public comments on any subject. We just ask, remember that you have 4 minutes, and that when you come to the podium, please state your name for the group so that we have that for our minutes. Is there any other public comment on any subject?
I know you missed me last month, but
We called you out.
I'm under the weather for an operation.
Glad to see you back.
I just think about Ellen Harris, who was a longtime employee of the district in the administration team. And I don't know if you've done any homework yet on this thing that's possibly from the Exeter Township trying to come to Tunkhannock, but I've been looking at the numbers and stuff, and before, if it ever does come to a head, I think you just need to make sure on your end how much less Tunkhannock will get than Wyoming area, not only per student, but the Homestead Act too, and what that'll do to us, because it'll lower that number for the existing homes in Tunkhannock School District. I hope somebody does some homework if that ever comes up, so you know where you stand.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Just curious, maybe one of our administrators can answer. Do we know what's going on with the solar project? What the status is?
Yeah, the feasibility study started. We had the structural engineers and the electrical engineers in 2 weeks ago. So now we're just waiting to hear back from them, and then we'll meet with our liaisons with their information at Dewey, and then we'll go to the next step of the feasibility study. So right now, it's a waiting game, but Josh Polsky and I walked them through 2 days, walked them through the entire campus, every building, and they took all the data they needed. They flew drones over for the structure, and we're just waiting to hear back.
Thank you.
But the feasibility study is on its way.
Thank you.
Hi, I had a question about the school bags. I'm getting told that they have to keep them in their lockers throughout the day.
Can you just tell us your name?
Kathy, sorry,
Last name?
Aldrich.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't know if that was for security reasons, and if that's the case, is there any way that they can maybe bring in a clear bag? 'Cause I know some of the students are having a hard time getting to their locker and then into their next class on time.
Is that in this building?
Yes.
I would say if you want to have that student meet with Mr. Winsick, and they can talk about like what the challenge is and the struggles, and see if they can come up with a better solution that would help them figure out, how to make something work better.
Yeah, because
You know?
I've already had my daughter come down on for being late for class, and she's like, well, I had to stop at my locker and get the other books, and...
Right, and there might be a situation where she has like a strange schedule where she has to go further, and they can work something out with the teacher or something so that she doesn't get in trouble, but that would be best dealt with just like on a one-to-one with that student and the principal or Mrs. Wood even, to come up with, just look at what the setup is, because
Okay.
for a lot of kids, it ends up working out because they're in the same general areas, but there are kids that don't have a schedule like that it would be best if they just, talk to them, because we don't want kids stressing about like how to get all their stuff ready
Right,
to
or
go
having to
and being late.
carry
So,
everything throughout the day.
yeah, so helping to come up with a solution for that, I'm sure they would be happy to help them.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to say that, Kathy, thanks for coming up and talking, by the way. I think we actually, I'm having a deja vu moment. I think we talked about this about 2 years ago with a different parent, because I think it's actually that rule, I think is actually in our policy. But again, you referred the parent to Mr. Bosher, and Mr. Bosher found a solution that was, acceptable to all. But I'm going to look. There might be something in our policy book about that.
Okay.
But we could get a solution. I'm very confident that we'll find a solution.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other public comment on any subject? I just wanted to add real quickly that anybody who does, this threat this week or the concern of a threat came to the district initially through the Safe to Save program, which is a great program that Pennsylvania has, and other states have programs like this too. But if your child or you come across information that is potentially threatening to the district, that is an excellent way to try and get that information to the right people 24/7. That's if you think a student is going to hurt themselves, hurt others, hurt you. The place to not get that kind of response 24/7 from effective resources is posting it on social media. So while I think that there's a lot of great value in sharing information on social media, it's happened a couple times in the last week or so that I've seen personally, where somebody will put something up and say, has anybody seen this yet? Like, does the school know about this? The way to make sure that the school knows about that right away is to send it through the Safe to Say program, which it can be a phone call, it can be a website. If you search Pennsylvania, Safe to the number, Say, you'll see the program, you can read all about it. It's available to kids, it's available to parents. We're not advocating that anybody abuses it, but posting something on social media and hoping that someone from the school sees it is never going to be the way to ensure that safety is the top priority in our district. So.
That's a great comment. There's even an app.
There is an app, yeah.
Also that depending on what is reported on Safe to Say determines who it gets sent to. So if you report criminal activity, it goes to law enforcement. Or if you give a threat, if you report that someone threatened like a building, like that goes to EMS and law enforcement as well as the school. So depending on what the topic is how they send it out. So you're 100% right when you say it'll get an immediate response.
Like in minutes.
Oh.
I mean, I've had to file one before. So
We know within minutes.
Yes, if you
Yeah.
think a kid is in danger, if you think that, if your kid tells you that they think their friend is going to hurt themselves, you can anonymously report that, and the resources are going to be dispatched to make sure that situation is safe for everybody involved.
That's correct. So if a high school student reported something that at 2 a.m. that was potentially life-threatening, Mr. Winsek, Ms. Woods, and Security Director Seberg, their phones are going off at 2:01.
Right. So that, I just want, like I said, we don't want that resource abused. We don't want kids using that to target other kids. Like, that is not, and there can be consequences for abuse of the program. But any even like partial concern of those types of things, the point is that posting it on social media is not going to be the thing that stops the next tragedy. So, any other board comment? All right, thanks everybody.